You're listening to MMA Think Tank with Jay and Mike.
Another couple of weeks and another podcast. How have you been, Mike?
Oh, Jay, it's been not too great around here. I won't talk about it too much, but semi laid off, and what I mean by that is my store. I work at Whole Foods, is closing tomorrow. It was very quick. I found out Wednesday, and we're closing Sunday. However, I do have a job lined up at another store. They did take care of the lateral move. However, it's going to be a 35, 40-minute commute. God has blessed me with a new car last year, so I can do that. Some of my buddies cannot do that. So I've been able to do that. But, yeah, so if you guys have checked the Facebook, I haven't written in a while, the last few days. Posted something yesterday about it. I will be writing more after I get into the swing of things at my new store. It's a bigger store. That's where I'm at. But, Jay, as I have told you and also on the podcast, we got MMA, my friend.
Yep.
And MMA is what I love, and it took me away from a lot of the sadness.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry to hear about that, and I'm glad that you have another job to go to now. I didn't know about that, so I'm glad you let me know that. I was worried about you, man. So thankfully you got a job, though, man. That's what matters most. And, yeah, as you said, we have MMA, Mike, and tonight we had UFC 208.
Fight Rewind.
Do you want to run down the main event?
Yeah, this was something that I wasn't super excited for, except for the historical aspect of it. I mean, I do realize that Holly Holm and Jermaine Durandamy are both great strikers, so they had that going for them, but we didn't get as much strikers as I thought we would. Jay, it's 48-47 across the board for Durandamy. I did pick her to win the fight, and she did win the fight. I'm happy I got that. But there was some ballyhoo and all that kind of stuff
some
about
tomfoolery
points being taken. Tomfoolery and shenanigans, my friend.
Yes.
About points being taken away or not being taken away. Now, if a point was taken away by Holly Holm, from Jermaine Durandamy, this would have been a draw, and I think they would have run it back. But it was not. Jay, give me your thoughts. Basically, I thought personally that the first quote-unquote late punch after the bell, I thought was part of a combo that, I don't like that it was thrown, but it's something that happens every so often. It just happens. It's not a big deal to me, but it kind of wobbled home. The second time, though, I think she was already warned, Durandamy, and I think they could have took a point away, and I would have taken a point away.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, at least on those?
The first one, I think she was in the middle of a combo, and
exactly.
it flowed, and it was just a split second off. I think Joe Rogan and company was just a little bit over dramatic on that situation, but I get it. I understand it because it really rocked her, because usually that doesn't happen, But as far as the second time, I'm all for taking a point, even though the hits really didn't land the second time. But
do you think that it was a Jose Aldo Chad Mendez? I don't think it was.
No, I don't. But
okay.
I will say, though, that the punches thrown the second time were maybe even a second later than the first time. So that's why I would have taken the point.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, do you think that when in that second one we're just talking about, do you think that Durandamy was hurt by that kick? Excuse me, I shouldn't say hurt. I'm sure she was probably hurt. But do you think she was wobbled or going down? I don't think she
didn't
was.
Look like it.
She jumped right back up and started throwing punches. I think it was a good solid shot by Holm.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was on the way out or anything.
It was one of those shots that was given and was taken valiantly, but it caught her off guard. She was unbalanced by the shot. She fell. Yeah. She pushed off the ground with her hands, stood back up, and threw punches. She clearly wasn't out on her feet at all, but it was one of those shots that, it did cause her to go unbalanced. So that's the way I saw that.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at the fight. We just now got on here. We haven't looked at any what other people have thought, guys. This is just seriously about five minutes after it's over. We're on now. So some of the things I kind of want to talk about too, and Jay, jump in here as well, of course, and let me know if you agree or disagree. But this is all a stand-up fight, pretty much. Of course, Durandamy, she landed all the harder strikes, or most of the harder strikes. She landed all the strikes except for on the kicks, elbows, punches. But that's kind of what gave her the fight, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, but I had one word, well, 2 words written down for this fight. Boring fight. I'm sorry. I just have to say it, guys. It was a boring fight. I really thought this fight was going to showcase both their talents because they are talented kickboxers, Muay Thai, style fighters, especially Durandamy. In the last podcast when we talked about this fight, I just wasn't very familiar with her. So I looked her up on YouTube, watched some of her older fights, and I was really impressed with what I saw. And I thought that she was going to come in and really dominate in that fashion. Didn't happen. And for Holly Holm, it was the same kind of performance she turned in last fight.
And for most of her UFC fights, the exception of Ronda, but that Ronda, she was just a bad
bad
style
matchup
for Ronda. Yeah. But it's something we're talking about. Valiancy and things like that. I mean, Holm, she came out of it like a warrior. She took those late punches. And she, even though it was a boring fight, and I agree with you. Holm, she took it and kept coming, and then she took it to the fence in rounds 4 and 5. Even though she buckled Durandamy with that punch that led in kind of to a headbutt, but it wasn't really a headbutt in my opinion. It just their heads touched. Don't get me wrong, she did buckle her with a left or a right. I don't remember which it was. So it seemed to me that maybe she thought she had it in the bag, or she just needed a takedown to get around to win.
Yeah, I can see that.
What did you think? Because that's kind of what I thought maybe she was doing.
Yeah, it kind of looked like that. You're right. But at the same time, I just want to back up a bit when you talked about style matchups here. This was the perfect storm for a great fight. They both are great fighters in similar styles. I thought it was going to be a much better fight, and it was just boring to me. And I'm really saddened by that because I thought we were going to see something spectacular here, and we ended up with a dud. And what's unfortunate was, I'm not going to get into this fight, but the fight before that was a dud as well. And we'll talk about that soon. But
yeah,
man.
Well, let me add on to what you're saying. Is that this is a fight that nobody wanted, nobody asked for.
Yeah,
but we got it, and so we looked for the best in it, which was 2 strikers that are great at what they, a boxing champ, a kickboxing champ. And you've got the best person at the weight class in the audience.
Yep, exactly.
Cyborg's in the audience waiting to fight.
I thought it was either Cyborg or Danny Trejo. But no, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. I apologize.
Hey, no reason to apologize to Danny Trejo. He can take it.
Yep. But yeah, you're right, man. And it just sucks, though, because I just thought it was going to be a better fight. And here's the part where I really just I didn't get upset, but at the end of the fight, Mike, it kind of hit me as odd. Did you notice when she was being interviewed that she announced that she was having surgery for a previous problem? She had tendons.
Correct?
Yes, Durandamy. She had previously torn some tendons in her hand, and she's going to get those fixed. Well, now, being that this new UFC system has been doing this, follow me now, if the new standard is...
I know where you're going.
Listen. By their new standard, we should see Holly Holm fighting Cyborg for the interim belt.
You are correct, sir. Or they'll just give Durandamy another title fight right after.
Because you're not going to be able to fight with an operation like this even, I doubt even 6 months out.
Right.
So we're looking at a Cyborg Holly Holm fight. You heard it here first on the MMA Think Tank podcast.
Hey, it was a close fight. It could have went either way. It could have been a draw. So why not? I know where you're going with that. I know you're half kidding, half serious.
Yeah.
It talks about where our sport's at and how ridiculous it is. In that aspect, at least, the sport's great. The matchups are great. But here's something one last thing I had to really talk about for this fight is Holly Holm's lost 3 in a row, my friend.
Yep.
She ran to the top, destroyed Ronda Rousey, the unbeatable. And now she's lost 3 in a row. I don't know what goes on with this girl's psyche, where she's going to be at. She takes a couple years off. She's already been the champ.
But here's the thing.
Boxing.
But here's the thing, Mike. She's still number 2 in the 145-pound division.
That's true.
So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the UFC right now and all those interim belts, but I can see it happening here, guys. Seriously. And I know I'm half joking, but I'm half not. It's crazy, but... I don't know. Do you have anything much to say further on this fight, or do you want to just move on?
Fight? No, I really don't. I just really wanted to see what you thought about Holly Holm, where she was going to go from here after.
Like I said, she's number 2 in that division. She's not going anywhere. That division is just now being built, and unless a lot of the girls move up in weight, she's going to stick around.
Yeah, I won't. The last thing I'll say then is I won't be surprised if they get rid of this division. The first time they ever gotten rid of a division since they got the lightweight division back in the early 2000s. Everybody loves BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar and and Benson Henderson. But there was a time, people out there, that if you're just getting into the sport or you haven't been around too long, they dropped the lightweight division because it wasn't enough people in it. And sure enough, it's back now. But yeah, it could be gone. We'll see.
That's crazy. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into that other fight that was a dud.
Yeah, Anderson Silva versus Derek Brunson. This was the fight I was looking forward to most. Jay and I differ on which fights we were looking forward to most, but I really was looking forward to this one because the striking was going to be great, and then it kind of fell apart, kind of like with the previous fight we just talked about. It was 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27, all for Anderson Silva. I just got a couple things to say, Jay, and of course jump on after that, and we'll banter. But I think if Silva would have let it go, he would have knocked Brunson out easily in the second or third. But he won anyway on the cards in a close fight. But I think Brunson actually edged him out. I thought it was a close fight, but I think that Brunson should have won.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think he got all 3 rounds, matter of fact.
Anderson Silva looked intense, the most intense I've ever seen him, except for when he's camping. Get it intense. Anyway, so basically he was as intense as I've ever seen him. In his face, he looked at me. He didn't look nonchalant. He looked just ready to go and ready on the kill. Except for his face was ready, but his punches weren't. And that's what's sad and why I don't want to see another Anderson Silva fight. I'm done.
Yeah. I've been saying that for a while. I've been saying he's a has-been because, well, loss, no contest, loss, and should have been a loss tonight. I think he's way past his prime. He's not using those legs like he used to effectively. And it could be due to, actually, I blame it on Weidman. He took that mystique away from him, and he never got it back, and he can't get it back.
Yeah, I think part of it, I agree. I think part of it, his playfulness
doesn't work anymore.
Weidman took that away with the knockout punches.
Exactly.
And now he kind of wants to play, but he's so gun shy. I think he just likes to be there in the octagon. It feels like home. It's where he wants to be, but it's not where he really wants to be to win. It's where he wants to be if he gets a win, great. If he doesn't, that's okay because his legacy is already set.
Yeah.
That's how I view it, and that's kind of how I viewed it at the end of when they interviewed him.
It's almost like another day at the office.
Yeah.
And here's the one thing I did text you, and I believe this. I mean, when I say I believe this, I think this is what could have happened to Brunson. I think when it started, I think he had an immediate adrenaline dump. And kind of like how some fighters do when they first fight in the octagon for the first time. Yeah. In this way, though, this situation, it happened to be because he was fighting a legend. He had a legend looking at him, and we all know that the Spider, what he used to be like. And if I've got him on the other side of that cage looking at me the way he did Brunson tonight, I would be scared.
Yeah, and Brunson's coming off a loss already. He doesn't want to have 2 in a row.
Yeah, so I think he had a bit of an adrenaline dump. I really do. And I think that's why he slowed way down in the second. And in the third, it was almost like he was totally gassed.
Well, do you think it was an adrenaline dump or more just he was scared? It was one of those things that happens.
He had that deer in headlights look. So who knows? Could have been. But it seemed like he didn't want to overcommit to anything because he was scared of what Silva might do. I think to the minds of most people out there, and obviously to the minds of the judges, these dance moves and stuff equal win.
Well, he didn't do as much of it this time. He started to do it, but one thing I will give Silva credit for is that he actually chased Brunson down a bit with some punches. I'm not going back on my word and saying that I think that Silva won this fight. I still think Brunson won this fight. I think he won a close fight, but I think they must have saw that Silva, looked. I don't know how to explain it more than like he was more in charge of the fight. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that should go over what the output is.
Yeah,
what's planned. What's
exactly, and what significant strikes and all that.
Yeah,
it seems like. Yeah, for me, Brunson won 3 rounds, but judges didn't see it that way. And what do they always say, Mike?
Don't leave it in the hands of the judges.
That's right. So,
but I'll go back and watch his fight probably tomorrow, and just see maybe if we missed something or what. But I think most people thought.
Well, Silva even raised Brunson's hand at the end.
Yeah,
he knew. And then at the end, he was shocked when they called his name, and he kind of just threw up his head and just, was excited, I guess. I can't believe I won, that sort of
Right.
Anyway, anything else on this one?
Nah, man, I think we should just go to a quick fight in Jacare Souza versus Tim Boetsch.
There we go.
Well, it took less than a round, basically. It went the way we thought, right?
Yeah, it really did.
Basically, this is Souza finally taking down Tim Boetsch. Not getting knocked out by Tim Boetsch, taking him down. Got pretty sure it was a Kimura. Yeah, Kimura in round 1. And I think the best part of the fight, because we knew this was going to happen, was he told Bisping and Rockhold to stop running. Now, I don't think telling Rockhold to stop running is I think that's a bit much. I really think he was hurt. I think Bisping, even though I'm a fan of Bisping, I think he might be able to. There's some credence to that. But Jacare knows now he needs to up his talk game to get a shot, it looks like.
Yeah, he does.
He shouldn't have to.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm just going to come out and say it. Jacare will be taking the title away from whoever he faces as champ. He will take it away, for sure. I don't care who it is in that division. He will take it away. I think he should be next. I think he beat Romero, even though he didn't, on paper.
Right.
But I think he beat him. And I think you may be right about the champ running from him a bit. So who knows? Because he's already called out Romero next.
Yeah, I like how Jacare called him Dirty Romero, because that's exactly what the guy is. He's a dirty fighter. Bisping's fighting over Romero, it looks like. So after that, hopefully Souza will get the next shot. Rockhold, I don't remember if he's fighting anybody, Jay. I think he's still just injured waiting.
Yeah.
We got Saucy fighting Weidman. Weidman's lost 2 in a row. If he beats Musasi, that's a fantastic win for him, but that shouldn't get him a title shot. It's got to be Jacare Souza. If I'm Jacare Souza, I sit on the couch and train, and that's it. I don't do nothing. I don't go hang out with Cowboy Cerrone and do weird stuff and get hurt. I just chill and get my title shot.
Yeah, one thing I will say about this fight tonight, though, Boetsch did a good job of holding him off for a little while.
Yeah.
The takedowns. And then finally, when Jacare, he's such a master at taking people down, yep. Mike. And once he gets you there, he's going to capitalize on it. And he did tonight. And we both knew that was going to happen eventually. We just didn't know when.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that, when I'm writing, I say, a BJJ artist or not artist, but ace or something like that. There's one term I use, which is a wizard. That means you're the top of the heap. And him and Damian Maia, I mean, I'd love to see Damian Maia and them in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match just straight up. Would be interesting, but I don't want to get off too much on a tangent. Yeah. But that's just how great those guys are. They're just a cut above everyone else. And I'm glad you brought up Boetsch, because even though, like you said, even though he did end up getting lost, he did pretty well for a guy that's unranked. I mean, he's unranked. He's going against one of the best in the business.
Yeah, I thought it was a terrible matchup. Terrible matchup.
And I don't know if you read this on MMA Junkie, but MMA Junkie, there's an interview. He said when he got the call to fight him, he goes, "Why? why do you want me to fight? Like, why am I fighting him?" He took the fight. He was happy to take the fight because he's a warrior. He's going to get in there and fight anybody, and it's going to help his career if he gets the win. He'll be back in the top 10. But he still was clueless of why he was fighting him.
Yeah, that's funny though. But that's Tim Boetsch for you. That's how he is.
That's why he's a fan favorite, man.
Yeah, okay. So moving on, Mike, we had Glover Teixeira versus Jared Cannonier. What did you think about this guy, this new guy, Cannonier?
Well, I don't know. This is a guy I never heard of.
Me neither.
Jay, have you heard of? Okay. But when I looked him up, he's decent guy. He's 2-1 in the UFC. I believe he's like 12-1 overall. Good power. So I looked at this kind of as him being a prospect, but not. But I mean, again, it's weird. It's like, why is he fighting Glover Teixeira? Much like, why was Boetsch fighting Souza? This is one of those things we talked about when I was texting back and forth about. These are kind of two almost squash matches. I don't want to really call them that, but they were. It's like you knew who was going to win this fight. these fights. Souza won it and Teixeira won it. Teixeira 30-26, 30-26, 30-26. Round 3 must have been the 10-8 because that's where he got on top and did most of his work. Teixeira, that is. So, but hats off to Cannonier, man. He bloodied Teixeira a bit, landed some good shots, but Teixeira's takedowns and top control, his toughness, they were the key, man.
I think that Cannonier could have been more in this fight had he had some wrestling in his background, because he had no wrestling defense whatsoever. And that's what it looked like Teixeira really capitalized on tonight with him.
Yeah, he's 12-1, so he's still kind of a young fighter. And, that's something that Teixeira has, and it's kind of like, underrated. It's most underrated, I think, is probably his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, even though he's got a belt because he likes to throw. But I rarely see him do takedowns, and so when that came out, that was certainly a feather in his cap to do that. But on the broadcast they talked about with Cannonier training up in Alaska with not being part of a big team and how much is that going to hurt you once you get to the highest level. Yeah. And I think this is kind of a testament to that. Yeah.
And I wonder if it's also a testament that Teixeira was going to his wrestling game, testament to Cannonier's punching power.
Oh, I think it was. I think, like you said, he hit him a couple times, maybe not wobbled him, but there are some that got through, and the guy has power. So Glover Teixeira is smart, man. He doesn't yet have a belt, and he knows that he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist, so he's going to use all he's got to do it. Yep. And I don't blame Teixeira for doing that. I would get the win any way I can.
Exactly. He fights smart, so hats off to him. Anything else to say on this one, or you want to go ahead?
I was going to say maybe we should move to the best fight of the night, in my opinion.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, Dustin Poirier versus Jim Miller. That kicked off the night. 28-28, 29-28, 29-28 for Dustin Poirier. So Miller was a warrior as always. Busted up Poirier's leg a little late with leg kicks. But, Poirier was just a bit better, as we kind of give him credit for, just a bit better than Miller. But a great fight to kick off the night, man.
Yeah, it really was. I will say, though, Poirier did get sucked into that brawling style of Jim Miller.
Yeah.
He pulls so many into that. So, but it was a fun fight overall. Sometimes it was rock'em sock'em robots. For me anyway, I'm like, I don't know if I like that too much, but there was just enough of the mental game, some of the, smart tactics that both of them use, and, that rock'em sock'em robots, where it just kept it honest and fun.
Exactly. It's got its place, and that I agree with you. It's got its place, and that's kind of where it was at. Now, here's what I wanted to ask you as well, because what I texted you, plus 325 on Miller. And for you gamblers out there, even though I don't gamble a lot, plus 325 means if you bet $100, you win $325. And I told you I would take that bet.
Yeah.
And I was wrong, but it
was close.
He took his back and almost got Poirier.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't call that dead wrong. Right. So 325, you got to go for that. Especially Jim Miller. Come on. Jim Miller. It's like if you were to make these guys fight 5 times, Jim Miller might win half those fights.
Yeah, he's got to win on the ground, though, because when I saw the firefight, the rock'em sock'ems, I thought to myself, you're not going to knock Poirier out, but maybe you can hurt him enough to take his back.
Oh, yeah, he touched
Uriah
him.
Faber or something like that.
Yeah, he definitely touched him.
And that's how he would do it.
Yep. I can see that. But yeah, as for Poirier, man, where does he go from here, man?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Jay. Basically, the way I look at it is he's got this win back. Is this the first win? Well, I know it's the first win for sure, but is this the first fight since Michael Johnson? I think it is. He lost to Johnson. I think this is his first fight back.
Yeah, it might be. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, if it's not his first fight back, he's won since then, so that would be 2 in a row since. But he came in, I believe, on winning 4 in a row and some good wins before he fought Johnson. And Johnson's a top 5 guy for top 10 for sure. So I think he's back, quote unquote, in the mix in the top 10. I think you give him somebody in the top 10. I got the rankings up right now.
He lost to Johnson last, so he did lose to Johnson last. And before that, he had 4 in a row.
Yeah, and you've got somebody like Beneil Dariush, Michael Chiesa, that's below Johnson. I could certainly see that fight. When Gilbert Melendez gets back from, he peed hot, for whatever it was, for what PED it was. He comes back. I'd love to see him fight Gilbert Melendez if they were to do that. Former champ, give him another win, possibly propel him farther.
Yeah, that'd be a good fight for sure. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to another fight card, Mike. You want to move over to what we had, it was just last weekend. This was a much better card, by the way. It was UFC Fight Night 104, And, of course, the Korean Zombie is back, Mike. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone for 3.5 years. 2 years of that was military service in South Korea that he has to do as I guess a single guy, in his age group, much like they do in Israel and some other places. But also he was hurt. I mean, before that, his last fight was Jose Aldo almost 4 years ago. Comes back in, takes some stiff shots from Des Bermudez, top 10 guy, but keeps coming forward. A zombie's gonna zombie, bro. I mean, that's what, and he gets the uppercut to the knockout win. It was beautiful. Had me screaming. Yeah,
me too, man. I was so excited for this fight because you and I both have been fans of the Korean Zombie for quite some years. We go back to the WEC days with this man.
Yeah.
And boy, I can't tell you how happy I was to just see him in the octagon again, and then see him come forward and take those shots again, just like he did before he left, Mike. It was amazing to watch him do the same thing over again, and then to win the fight like that was just unbelievable, man. And you see how happy it made you and me as fans. Just think of how happy that made him.
Yeah, and what I loved about that is it was a true Korean Zombie fight. And so folks out there, if you're kind of new and it's been 5 years, that's why he gets the name Korean Zombie. He takes it, he comes forward, takes some more, comes forward, and he gets the knockout. But you can't. But it's more than that. That's where he gets the nickname. But he's also one of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners there is. He gets you on the ground. He gets you in all kinds of problems. He's one of the best well-rounded guys. It's why he fought for the title against Jose Aldo 5 years ago. To come back after like 4 years, it's just ridiculous. And Jay, I think I texted you real quick. I was happy to see his translator, the big Korean dude.
Yeah,
he's such a grinning guy, man, that just he loves being in the moment. So I was like, oh, that guy too. Yeah, he's back. It was kind of like Batman and Robin again.
Yeah, and the thing about the Korean Zombie too, I think he's got some of the best striking in that division as well. He's pinpoint accurate. The guy's got some hard shots, and he could take a shot, too. For you new guys, watch his older fights. Look them up. Yeah. They're amazing. Some of them they're just as good as this one. This fight is pretty much the way most of his fights have gone. He's a great, fun fighter to watch. The UFC is lucky to have him back.
Look up, go to YouTube and look up Korean Zombie. Oh, gosh, what's the guy's name? Leonard Garcia. Korean Zombie, Leonard Garcia, Twister. No, it's not those guys playing the game Twister.
Yep.
It's actually the only time the Twister has been landed on someone in the UFC, and it's brutal.
Yep. That was amazing. I forgot about that one, man.
It's basically he's on Leonard's back, or sorry, Garcia. Well, Leonard Garcia on Garcia's back, and he's twisting his body one way and his head the other way. It's brutal, and so he taps very quickly. So yeah, Korean Zombie's back, Jay. He beat a top 10 guy. It's even better that he beat a top 10 guy. So he's back in the hunt. Give him a couple wins. Look, there's a lot. This is the fight game, and it's not just about how many wins you get. It's how popular you are. It's it's how you fight. And the Korean Zombie could get a title shot with 2 more wins.
Yeah. And I remember he was on the rise to getting really popular before he left. And now that he's back and he's showing what he can do, if he continues on this path, Mike, he'll become really popular. Even though he don't speak the language, he's one of those guys that people will watch. Because I remember back in the day, people wore T-shirts and everything, Korean Zombie on it and stuff.
Yeah.
This guy is one to watch. Again, for the new guys out there that don't know. All the MMA fans out there that know, they know this guy already. They know he's a badass. So I'm just so happy to have him back.
And before we move on, too, he's a smart guy because if you noticed it in the broadcast, Brian Stan, he kind of wanted to apologize but didn't have to. He said, look, we're calling him Zombie, but they're not calling him Chan Sung Jung because he wants to be called Korean Zombie. He wants to be called that. Yep. He's a smart guy. He knows that this kind of cult, I don't want to say cult following because he's a great fighter, but it is kind of a cult following. It was, well, at least, Jay, when we got to know the Korean Zombie, we knew it was kind of a cult following in the WEC. Then it got bigger, and now it's getting even bigger now, like you said.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but that name is what resonates with a lot of fans, in their minds. It's the Korean Zombie, not his name. So that's how people know him. He's going to become a household name. Watch.
Yeah. You going to go and move on to Grasso and Herrig?
Yep.
Yeah, so, this fight was something I think both of us picked Grasso over Herrig. Herrig unanimous, she won a unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 30-27. At first, I thought maybe this is something where Grasso just wasn't. She finally went up against a very well-rounded veteran in Felice Herrig. Even though Felice has been kind of, her record's kind of like 11-6. It's kind of, a little ho-hum a little bit. But she's won her last two now, including the Grasso fight. But she's been under Jeff Big Frog Curran. And I think that's what's key, man. I think that Herrig has really turned around under Big Frog, and former WEC fighter, former champ also, by the way.
Yep.
And I'm interested to see where Herrig goes from here. This is her last chance, I think, at really going towards a belt because of her age and because of how great people like Grasso is for as young as Grasso is. Grasso is going to go way far past Herrig when she gets to Herrig's age.
Yep.
But right now it was Herrig's night.
She basically nullified Alexa Grasso's game, because usually we see Grasso get loose and she's in there mixing it up, and it seemed like Herrig just had the answer to stop her from really getting started. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I kind of think there was a bit of that too. Now that you say it, because that was a week ago, and so now that you bring that up, that's a good point as well. And I don't know if that again was because she was fighting someone who's more well-rounded. Because Heather Jo Clark's not a great fighter. She's average. She's fine. I'm not saying she could probably beat me up. She's a professional fighter, but she's not someone that she's a very small step compared to where Herrig is, and so there's a little bit of both, I think. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, but I noticed that night she wasn't really able to just start getting off on kicks and punches, her combinations. Herrig, though, did her thing, and yeah, she's looking better than she used to. I will say that, Mike. I think that you're onto something there with her being with
Jeff Curran.
Jeff Curran, yes. I think you're onto something.
Yeah. How about we get on to some news?
News Corner.
All right, so news corner, kind of a short news corner, but still good stuff to talk about as always. Rashad Evans versus Dan Kelly is going to be at UFC 209. We keep Rashad Evans has been trying to fight, but he wasn't getting his medicals cleared. If you guys remember, now he's cleared finally. If you guys aren't too sure about Dan Kelly, he's 12-1 with 5 submissions, 3 KO TKOs. He's the Australian judo Olympian, 39 years old. He's not really that athletic looking, but he gets the job done. If that kind of helps remember who Dan Kelly is. When I read Dan Kelly, I knew who it was, but I wanted to make sure, and sure enough, I think that my description of Dan Kelly is exactly who it is.
It sounds like a local news reporter.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'm Dan Kelly.
Exactly, my friend. So there you go. So this is going to be, Rashad Evans at middleweight debut, fighting a guy that I think he should fight. A guy that is not great overall, doesn't have a lot of doesn't have any big wins, but can get the job done at 12-1 and is a good fighter.
When you started this story off, Mike, and you started talking about how Rashad Evans was trying to get back to fight, all I kept thinking was why.
He's got the drive, brother.
You know my deal with Rashad. I think that the guy shouldn't be fighting anymore, especially with the last couple of performances he put on.
Oh, that along with the medical unclearance or ill clearance, whatever you want to call it, non-clearance. Yeah. I hear you on that. But still, former champ, still. So I thought I'd throw him in there, especially with the middleweight debut. But man, we got nothing else really to talk about.
Another has-been, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'd like to see Kelly win this, get a name finally. But he's 39 years old. He's not gonna do anything either. So maybe it's a way for Evans to win on his way out. And then get probably enshrined into the UFC Hall of Fame.
And he could always go back to his reporting job, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, Jay, how often do you watch him? This is a serious question. How often do you watch him on Behind the Desk when he's talking?
Rashad, you mean?
Yeah.
I've seen him a few times.
I think he's fine. He's way better than I would be. But yeah, I think like he has a little bit to go. But hopefully they will keep him. In the same
vein of what's her name that just got there?
Misha Tate?
Misha Tate is the same way. She's bad. Right now she needs a lot of learning to do. Yeah,
so Misha Tate, she speaks clearly.
Yeah.
But she seems just a little off. Whereas Rashad Evans, again, I'm not trying to throw shade or the kettle calling him black, whatever. Because I stutter myself.
Mike
but I'm
is
not behind
throwing
the desk.
shade.
Yeah, exactly. How about that? But yeah, so yeah, I hope he keeps the job. That's all. I was curious if you thought the same way I did.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. I've seen that before myself, and I see it in Misha Tate as well. That's why I brought her up.
Gotcha. So on to some pretty good fights here. Now we're looking at Andre Koreshkov versus Fernando Gonzalez at Bellator 174. We all know Koreshkov. He just lost his belt to Lima. It'll be his first fight back. Gonzalez just lost to Michael Venom Page, man. I remember that boring fight.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, oh, yeah. I remember that boring fight.
But Gonzalez is still a gamer, still a good fighter, at least for, the welterweights in Bellator. And the Bellator welterweight division's pretty good when it comes to all their other divisions. So I'm going to go with Koreshkov for sure, but I can't count Gonzalez out because the guy's just a tough guy and he's got a pretty good right hand.
Yeah, I'm going with Koreshkov too there, man. I know we're not doing our picks here. It's just the news, but man.
This next one here is for the diehards out there that watch the WSOF. And we won't spend too much time on it. But WSOF 35 now adds Lance Palmer from Team Alpha Male. He's going to defend his featherweight title against Andre Harrison. And Bekbulat Magomedov will face Timur Valiev for the vacant bantamweight title. Blagoy Ivanov versus Sean Jordan is the main event. We talked about that, I think, in our last podcast or a few ago. That's the heavyweight title fight. So we're looking at 3 title fights now, just like their last show at the end of the year, where there was 3 title fights on the main card. Palmer, big fan, not just because Team Alpha Male. I think he's a great fighter. 2-time featherweight champ now in the WSOF. He's fighting a guy in Harrison who's 15-0, but mostly decisions. He did win his WSOF debut. And when you look at the 2 guys fighting at bantamweight for the vacant title, Valiev is 11-2. He's out of Jackson Winklejohn, so the guy's legit. And Magomedov is 17-1 and 2-0 in the WSOF, so that guy's pretty legit as well, Jay. So before we move on, what do you think?
Is he related to Arnold?
No, but he likes to drink Arnold Palmers, such as myself.
Yes, the tea is wonderful.
Mix that lemonade with that tea, baby. That's my mixed drink. Says the Christian who doesn't put alcohol in his body.
Oh, man.
But I don't care if you do. That doesn't bother me at all.
I don't care if you do. Well, you trying to save it there, Mike?
No, I just don't care. I didn't want you to think I hated people that drink.
I'm of the devil because I put tequila in my body from time to time.
Come out of him.
Yeah.
What do you think on that, Jay, before we get to the serious news from the WSOF?
I would say Palmer wins that fight, man.
Yeah. What do you think about the vacant bantamweight title? Those guys?
Honestly, I don't really care.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I don't care.
They're both good. They're both good fighters, so I'm just hoping for a pretty good fight. I don't have a horse in this race.
Let me just say something real quick though. The WSOF, and I know early last year, I was talking about how I thought the WSOF would really rise and become bigger than Bellator. It has not taken place, and I don't think it will. It hasn't taken off like I thought it would.
But Jay, you also said later on that you think it's going to fold.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on to the next story, this is where it could be coming in.
Oh, okay.
Both Marlon Moraes and David Branch have vacated their titles to become free agents.
And there it is. Yep.
And Ryan Bader is a free agent as well, most likely going to Bellator. So Ryan Bader may be leaving he's leaving the UFC, it looks like. Probably going to Bellator. Before we get back to the other 2 guys, Dana White said that Bellator is a better fit for him as well. I think Bader should go there. He's got to win over the current champ in Phil Davis. He's never going to win the UFC title. He's still got some years left. Go to Bellator. Before I jump back, Jay, what do you think about Bader probably going to Bellator?
Yeah, I'd say go to Bellator. Yep, definitely. Because I think he can actually win some fights there and possibly get that belt.
Yeah, I think that Benson Henderson. Well, Phil Davis was the first one to do it. I think he knew he wasn't going to get the belt, so he jumped ship. But was young enough, I think, still to get back if he wants to the UFC after his contract's up. But guys like Benson Henderson, guys like Rory McDonald, they either have won the championship or they're get close and they're not going to get it again.
Yeah, their UFC ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Moraes and Branch vacating the titles. Now, obviously, Gagey hasn't, we've been hoping for Moraes to jump ship for a while. Looks like he's going to do it. Moraes in the bantamweight division is amazing. David Branch has vacated both his middleweight and light heavyweight titles. They really need people at light heavyweight.
But
Jay,
here's the thing:
UFC.
I don't want to see Moraes going to Bellator because I think he's too good for Bellator.
Well, both these guys have talked about how they really want to fight the best in the world, and they are getting paid quite handsomely over in a WSOF. That's a guarantee.
And Scott Coker will pay them handsomely to go with Bellator.
Well, let me finish, though. So you are correct about that. I believe that Bellator would pay them more than the UFC. However, they have deep pockets with being a part of Viacom. But I think that if they held their money, kept their money straight, and did good things with their money, which I think both guys are smart guys, I think this is their last time to be able to fight the best and become the best. And I think they're both going to go the UFC. I really do.
So.
They may have a specific route they want to go and be okayed. Like, look, if I get 3 wins in a row, I need to be guaranteed a title shot or that type of thing. But besides that, do you think that David Branch should go to the middleweight division or the light heavyweight division? This is not something we need to talk about a lot, but I would probably go to the light heavyweight division because they need help, Jay. Light heavyweight division, let's look at it. DC's the champ. Jones, who knows when he's going to fight. Gustafson, hurt. Who knows when he's going to fight. Johnson, Teixeira, and then name somebody else who is worth a darn.
Know what I mean? I can't. At 205, I can't.
And then with at middleweight, even though not all the guys may be in their prime or young, there's names all over in middleweight. So I just hope he goes to light heavyweight.
Yeah, light heavyweight's hurting almost as bad as heavyweight.
Yeah, it's aging.
Or maybe even more so at this point. Without John Jones, man, yeah, they don't have much going on there, man. I never really gave much thought to that division.
Well, it's very top heavy. You got other guys in there like Owen St. Preux that they're average guys, but
it seems we don't see many fights in that division per year.
Yeah, part of it is because the whole problem with John Jones and he's supposed to fight somebody and then he has to get pulled out because of shenanigans or because of whatever. And then you've got rematches that we're going to have again here with Johnson and Daniel Cormier. And Gustafson rematched a bunch of people as well. So.
Well, John Jones and Silva need to stay away from them boner pills.
Yes, they do. Yeah, but moving on, I guess. We'll just do Stipe Miocic versus JDS. Junior Dos Santos is going to headline UFC 211. Rematch, of course. JDS won the first fight a while back. Before Stipe was really the Stipe we know now. But Stipe Miocic versus Junior Dos Santos is a great fight. I'm leaning towards Miocic, but, in his last fight, Dos Santos again showed us that he's kind of back,
Yeah, man, I hope he puts up a good fight against Stipe, but I'm going Stipe in this fight. I think Stipe is going to take him.
Yeah, Stipe is an athletic guy and very fast on his feet, good footwork, good power. And Dos Santos has got great power as well, former champ for sure. But I think that, Stipe's got that movement like Cain Velasquez does that, Dos Santos has a hard time with. I know Dos Santos got the one knockout of Velasquez in that trilogy, but it was a very quick knockout within the first minute before Cain really got his movement going. So I'm going Stipe in this one. I don't think I'm going to change, but when it gets there, we will.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about it. And the last 2 fights we have to talk about, it's going to be Bellator 179 in May. Paul Daly versus Rory McDonald and Michael Venom Page versus the dreaded TBD. We don't know who Michael Venom Page is fighting, but we do know Paul Daly is fighting Rory McDonald, and that's one heck of a fight, Jay.
Yeah. Paul Daly with his last fight with that flying knee, it was just, oh, man, it was a beautiful thing. So, you know what, though? When we do make picks here, I'm probably going to go with Rory because he's just so much more well-rounded than Paul Daly.
Yeah, Rory McDonald, 2-time welterweight UFC contender, making his Bellator debut. Kind of tentative, but I think he's a bigger fighter than Daly, bigger in size.
Yeah, he is.
So that could come into how he picked the fight, but I think if Daly connects, I think this is it's lights out for McDonald. And I don't mean
But
that
McDonald,
like if Tim Boach would have connected.
Yeah, I hear you, Mike. But Rory's such a smart fighter, very technical and stuff. Who knows if Paul Daly will get that hit on him? But you never know. Paul Daly has, he's become a better fighter than he used to be when he was in the UFC. Don't you think he's much better today than he used to be?
Oh yeah, and I realize he's fighting in Bellator compared to the UFC, but he's better than he was in the Elite XC. He's better than he was in the UFC. So before the UFC, he's even better. So yeah, I agree with you. I think him just getting older and having more years in mixed martial arts.
Yeah, he's still that boxer, but he'll mix it up if he has to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, Michael Page. We don't know who he's going to fight, but this is actually going to be an English card. That's why Daly is in the main event, and Michael Page is in the co-main event. Michael Page wanted to fight Paul Daly, but it ended up being Rory McDonald. So, do you have a name for Page to fight, or do you think they should just give him? I mean, I think they should give him maybe not a nobody, but after the boring fight he had with Gonzalez, I don't really know who you give him.
Yeah, I don't know either. But you said this is an English card.
Yeah, it's in England. Yeah.
So are they gonna promote this and say thou hath UFC fight pass?
No.
Anyway, so this is an English card, Mike. That's cool. It's always cool to see them go around the world with UFC and MMA in general. It's cool. Cool.
It looks like they basically are really taking off now. They've been in Ireland, they've been in Italy, they've been in Israel, and they're back to England. Last thing here on the docket we have here, also Bellator, and I found this interesting. We'd like to know what your take is. Scott Coker is talking to Mike Goldberg, former UFC commentator, of course. Everybody knows him. To commentate for Bellator basically shows that Sean Grande can't do. That's something that I think is pretty awesome, and I'll tell you why. We always have fighters that come from, UFC to Bellator. Not always, but lately we've had fighters come from the UFC to Bellator, and vice versa. But to have we always see refs like Big John McCarthy. They do everything, but to hear Mike Goldberg commentate against fighters he hasn't been really big on for so long, I'd like to see what he does.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed about Goldberg leaving the UFC, and I heard an interview with him, and he's kind of bitter about it.
And he should be,
because the new regime took over. That's what he likes to call them, the new regime.
And he's right.
And he just doesn't like the way things are going over there. And he is right. And we've seen some of that already, and hopefully they start changing things, but I don't think they will, Mike. I think if there's any change to be done, it's going to be for the worst.
Well, I actually want to add on to that because I forgot to talk about it when we talked about the fights tonight. But before I move on to that, what did you, Jay? What do you think about Goldberg commentating for Bellator, though? Yay, nay.
I'd be for it.
Yeah,
Why
I'm
not?
for it. If it never would have happened, I wasn't gonna I didn't need it. But if they're gonna offer it, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, because as I've already told you, for me, we were missing that, or at least I was tonight with Rogan there. I'm always so used to him and Rogan playing off each other. Now I had Anik, and I'm not a big fan of John Anik. He's okay. He's good at what he does. He's just not Mike Goldberg. He's just not Joe Rogan. He's not the guy for me.
And formerly of Bellator, making the jump across to the UFC. Now, what I wanted to bring up earlier, and I'm sad I didn't do it earlier, but now is the time, I think. What did you think of the three-man booth tonight? I'm fine with three-man booths, and I'm not saying they shouldn't do it anymore.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
But what do you mean by that? Because what I mean by that is John Anik can do what he needs to do. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was one time I think that John Anik touched Daniel Cormier on the knee or on the arm so he could get his stuff out. Tune in to blah 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 to see whatever that stupid fake the warrior thing is that they're promoting. Anik and Goldberg previously has to get all that stuff out.
Yep.
And I realized that Cormier's kind of new to this, especially to a 3-man booth, but he can't talk over Joe Rogan as much as he did. I think that him and Rogan, they need to figure out how to get it going.
Yep.
There's too many times where where they had to I think just figure out when to talk and when not to talk. And again, I realize this is the first time they've done it.
That's the problem with it. You hit it right on the head, Mike, because Rogan is usually the guy that talks more than Goldberg, and Anik is usually the guy that talks more than whoever he's with.
Yeah, and something that I've talked about earlier in podcasts in the past, I should say, about I actually liked the 3-man booths when Randy Couture did them. Now, I am a Randy Couture fan, so it's possible that because I like Randy Couture, they were more interesting to me. But what I found interesting about back then, though, is that usually Randy Couture didn't speak very much until spoken to. Mm-hmm. That sounds kind of mean, but but he was there as specifically not a commentator, but as a fighter and what you think about this position. Now, Joe did that a couple times with DC. Yeah. When he said, "What do you think about when the guy punching the guy in the thigh?" Yep. That's a great question to ask somebody who's a fighter. And I don't want to make it sound like Daniel Cormier can't also do regular commentating as well, because he does a good job at it. He's a smart guy, but they got to figure some stuff out.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I wasn't that thrilled with it tonight. Again, people are going to say I'm just on all over Rogan about it, but I happen to like Rogan the best as a commentator. That's, and I know a lot of people agree with me out there. Some people don't like him, but he's my favorite commentator when it comes to mixed martial arts. So I want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, he's the best for sure. And it's not just because he's one of the OGs, but the guy actually, he knows jiu-jitsu. He knows Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yep. But he's also he also studies up on everything else.
And he's also a smart guy in general, and that helps a lot. That helps a ton.
Something I did like that they didn't do this time, and I believe, Jay, they did it with the fights with Korean Zombie, is they actually called up to the desk and talked to Dominic Cruz. Said, "Dominic, what do you think about this?" And for about 2 minutes, Dominic Cruz gave his thoughts on something while the fight was going on because it pertained to his weight class. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to have some of that.
That reminds me a lot of football. They do that sometimes. I like that they're going more mainstream with a lot of this stuff. I'm fine with that. It's just there's certain things that you don't do. And one of those things for you and I, apparently, is you don't talk over Joe Rogan constantly.
Right.
This is the Joe Rogan Love Hour here on the MMA Think Tank podcast. So I agree 100%, man. I agree with you.
Well, let's see if we agree in the next section, man. So we pick them.
And, but here's the thing before we get to the we pick 'ems.
Great segue.
Yeah, great segue. And we're going to keep this in there, Mike. We're keeping it. But I'm just telling you right now.
I want to hear what you have to say, man. You know that.
We want to hear what others have to say.
Indeed,
so call us at 925-237-1296. What do you think about the new things that they're doing over there at UFC with the new regime? Or you can email us if you don't want to talk. Email at mmathinktank@gmail.com. Now, Mike, you had a great segue. We're going right into
We Pick 'em.
So this Saturday, we're looking at I should say next Saturday, I guess. Either way, it's going to be February 18th. That's going to be Bellator 172. Yes, I did say Saturday because Bellator is normally on Fridays, but when they have a big card or a card they perceive to be big, they throw it on a Saturday. And, of course, you have Fedor Emelianenko on a card. You're going to make it a big card. He's fighting Matt Mitrione. We've been waiting to see this fight for about a few months now. They had the big introduction of Fedor walking out to meet Mitrione when Mitrione had no idea who was fighting. The whole deal with it was he just signed his name on a contract, and then Fedor walked out, and that's the first time he knew he was fighting Fedor. It's a really good piece of showmanship.
Yeah, and what was really...
But, Jay, what do you think about the fight?
What was really cool is when he walked out, and he said, "I must break you." It was amazing, right? That's what you're talking about.
Sweater.
Yeah, it was really cool, guys. So look that up. But here's the thing, Mike. I think Matt Mitrione is going to win this fight.
Yeah, my first thought, even though I'm a Fedor fan, was going Mitrione, and I still may go Mitrione. Fedor has lost a step. There's no doubt, and I know he can't take a hard punch anymore, and Mitrione's got that.
Yep.
The only thing Fedor has worth right now is that he's still got the bouncy steps on his feet. And if he can throw a punch and land on Mitrione, he might be able to get Mitrione out or get Mitrione to the ground at least on a hard punch and choke him out, because Mitrione can take a punch too, man. We all remember that first fight Mitrione had in Bellator where he got knocked out by knocked down by that one dude, and then of course he came back and knocked him out.
Now, what was Rampage's nickname for Mitrione?
Meathead.
Meathead, exactly.
Yeah, back in Tough.
Yep. So Meathead is going to win this fight, and I'm thinking, man, it could go the distance. I'm going to go the distance. I'm going to say,
really?
Yeah.
I'm going. That's right. This is we pick 'em. This isn't news. So I got to pick somebody. I'm going to go knockout Mitrione. If I'm picking rounds, I'm going to pick the second. I know that in Fedor's last fight, or one of his last fights, it was he didn't get knocked cold, but they should have stopped the fight. So, but I'm going to go Mitrione round 2 knockout, as much as I want Fedor to win. But yeah, anyway.
Wow, a little flip-floppery there. Usually I'm the one who's, or you're the one that's conservative, and I'm picking knockouts. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I just don't see either of these guys. I mean, I think Fedor still has it in the skill set to look. If he takes, whether he takes Mitrione down with a punch or a shot or some sort of trip, if he takes Mitrione's back, it's done.
Yeah, but I've seen fights where heavyweights have been in that octagon before, or cage, because it's Bellator, and I thought that one of them was going to get knocked out, no doubt, and that never happened. So it could happen. I'm just being conservative here, so I'm going Matt Mitrione by decision. But you could be right. He could knock him out in the second round.
Well, if I was to elaborate more, I'd say that it's going to be Matt Mitrione by knockout, but if Fedor wins, he's going to do kind of like what he did to Tim Sylvia back in Affliction. He'll land that hard punch, wobble Sylvia, and just jump to his back and choke him out. That's how Fedor wins that fight. But I think it's going to be Matt Mitrione just knocking him out cold, and they're going to stop it. And it's going to be another Fedor loss. By the way, guys, it's going to be another Fedor loss in San Jose, when I watched him lose the first time of his career, not counting that one that didn't count a while back. When I went there, wearing my Fedor shirt with everybody screaming Fedor's name, and to this day, little Filipino dude running around with a Russian flag like he was Superman's cape. It was a sight to see the love for this guy. Yeah, that's why they say things like
it's a sight to see a little Filipino man wearing a Russian flag as a cape.
Exactly. It was the craziest thing I ever seen.
Was it my dad? Was it my dad?
It was not your dad.
Oh, darn.
He's as handsome as your dad.
Oh,
but
thank
not your
you.
dad.
I'll let him know that.
And
no homo, right?
Oh, no homo. Your dad's a handsome man, an intelligent man, a scholar, I might add.
All right.
But to end it quickly though, that's when he got his first loss, and he had to tap to Fabricio Verdum, and we all went away sad Sattersons.
Yeah, and just to correct you there, you did say Fedor's first fight of his career. You're talking about first fight within Bellator, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. His first fight, it was his first loss.
Or Elite. Oh, okay, first loss. Okay, I got
his
you.
First loss.
Was it Elite XC? Was that what it was? Elite XC?
No, it was Strike Force.
There you go. It's when they turned into Strike Force. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, he had beaten Brett Rogers, knocked him out.
Yeah, I remember Brett Rogers. Whatever happened to that guy? Man.
Do you want me to tell you what happened to him?
Yeah. Because
I know.
Okay.
The guy is in jail or is gonna go to jail for beating his wife or some sort of heinous thing, dude. I forget what it was. I remember reading it and then being like, whoa, really? So it was more than just beating his wife, because a lot of look, I'm not saying beating your wife is good, obviously, and it shouldn't be commonplace. But with athletes, this is kind of what happens with some athletes. They do stupid stuff. And
Jason Mayhem Miller. Jason Mayhem Miller went off the deep end.
Yeah. It was something like Jason Mayhem Miller, but not as crazy. So.
Yeah. Not as crazy.
Guys out there, look it up and tell us what it was.
Yeah, exactly. That's nuts, man. I'm going to look into that later, because Brett Rogers was one of those guys that I was watching, back then. I was liking the dude, because he was the guy that worked at the tire store, right? Yep. Exactly. Yep. All right. What else do we got, Mike?
A pretty good fight, I think, here. Josh Thompson in the co-main event against Patricky Pitbull Ferrer. So this is a Patricky Pitbull, not his brother Patricio, who's the Mo Better, I guess you would say.
The Mo Better,
but
yeah.
But Patricky still got some good knockout power, although he was just knocked out by Michael Chandler in that fight, which was in their last fight, which is one of the best knockouts I've ever seen. But I'm going Thompson here.
Me
Thompson
too.
is older, yes, he's broken down a bit, but I think he's got more in the tank in a well-rounded game. Take Pitbull down and either finish it or just get the win by decision.
Yep, I'm going Thompson too, and I think he's going to win by decision as well, Mike.
So what you're saying, Jay, is that we're Thompson twins?
Hold me now. Okay, that's enough. All right, so let's go with what's next. Czech Congo versus Ollie Thompson, Mike. I know you're really big on both these guys.
To be respectful to Congo, the reason I put this on here is because Czech Congo's won, I think, 4 in a row. He's still boring. Still hasn't really finished many guys.
Wow.
But the guy's got 4 in a row.
That didn't sound very good, Mike. He hasn't finished many guys. Okay.
Yeah. He's one of the best fighters in the heavyweight division in Bellator, and so he's fighting Ollie Thompson, who just fought Matt Mitrione. Gave Mitrione a good fight, though Mitrione did get that win. So if Congo wins here, I keep saying whenever Congo wins that he's got to be put into this heavyweight tournament they've been talking about, but now they're kind of mum on this tournament. I don't know if it's because Fedor has just been signed, so if Fedor beats Mitrione, then they're going to put Fedor in for a title fight. So, Jay, that's what I think. Do you think that's why they're not talking about that tournament anymore?
I'm thinking why they're not talking about it is because all their heavyweights kind of suck.
Yeah.
That's too strong of a word because I don't think Matt Mitrione sucks necessarily. I don't even think that Czech Congo sucks. It's just that the division lacks a lot of talent.
I still think Blagoy Ivanov, their champ, is one of the better heavyweights out there. But he's not maybe the top 5.
Yeah, but
at least top 10.
Two or three guys don't make a tournament. So I think that's the problem they're facing with a heavyweight tournament.
Yeah, I was going to say is Czech Congo, he's just a name now. I don't think he's a name anymore. I think his name it's lost its luster. It used to be like, oh yeah, Czech Congo from the UFC, I'll watch that. And now since he hasn't been knocking people out, even though he's been winning, I think that's kind of lost its luster.
Okay, so who do you have?
Oh, just Congo. I just have Congo.
Okay, I'm going for Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson, what's that? I think he's the English strongman champion.
Yeah. He's got a hard punch, but Mitrione beat him up.
Yeah. So there we go. I got Congo. You got Thompson. Yeah. Not Thompson twins this time. But nope. Let's move on to UFC Fight Night 105, which is the next day. Oddly enough, on Sunday.
I hate Sunday cards. Hate them.
Which is odd, but I guess because the Bellator put theirs on Saturday, the UFC decided to put theirs on Sunday instead of Saturday. Kind of odd business here. Now, we've got some pretty good fights here, but because, look, it's not a pay-per-view, so, you don't expect the greatness. But at the top, we've got a great fight in Derek Lewis versus Travis Brown.
That is a good fight. And I will go, if you don't mind, I will go first. And I will pick Travis Brown.
Travis Brown. He has picked Travis Brown.
I'm picking Travis Brown. Even though I want Derek Lewis to win, I'm going Travis Brown by submission.
5 rounds.
Submission. Third round.
Now, I think Travis Brown was losing a step, but now he's back with his old coach. He's left Rousey's coach. I forget his name right now.
Oh yeah, thankfully. Because that was the knock I had on him until you had told me, he left him. And that's why I'm picking Travis Brown now.
Yeah. I'm still going to go Derek Lewis. But I think if Derek Lewis gets in trouble, he's going to fold. And I'll tell you why. Jay, did you listen to Derek Lewis's latest interview with Ariel Helwani?
The latest, meaning the past week?
Well, the last time he was on, which I believe was not this Monday past, but maybe the last Monday.
No, I didn't.
He doesn't want to be a fighter. He said, if I could get a 9-to-5 job,
wow,
I would. And that's what Ariel said. He's like, wow, really?
Okay.
So I think he's a front runner. Travis Brown could put it on him, and maybe, I'm not saying that means he'll lose, but that's something to think about. And so I'm still going to go Lewis. I still think he might be able to land on Brown. If Lewis can take on Big Country, can take on Gonzaga, I think it's the right step to go against Brown, and I'm gonna go ahead and just go with Lewis on this one. Though I think your Travis Brown third round is a good pick. I'm going Derek Lewis, not 5 rounds or a decision. I'm gonna say knockout in.
He's got to do it quick.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking the second, but I didn't know if I'd go third. I'm gonna go second. I'll go second because I don't think there's gonna be a lot of grappling here.
No, I don't think there will be. But it's one of those cases where I think Brown's gonna hurt him with a shot, take him down, and maybe submit him. Third round. That's what I think. But yeah, you could be right. He could. Lewis can win this by knockout in the second round. I can see that happening. Can happen in the first. I mean, both these guys, they're heavy-handed. So who knows? Yeah.
And of course, Derek Lewis ranked number 10 or 9. Travis Brown still around the top 5, I believe. So that's going to be a big move for Lewis. Carla Esparza versus Randa Marcos. The reason I put this on the docket to talk about was just because Carla Esparza is the former inaugural strawweight champ. She did win her last fight after losing to Joanna Jacek. She's fighting Randa Marcos. Randa Marcos is 6-4. She's not, that much of a standout outside of being on tough. So I'm going to go with Esparza here with the wrestling. But Randa Marcos is a tough chick, man.
Yeah, when I was going to say that, Randa Marcos looks good sometimes. I'm going with her. I think Randa Marcos might pull this off.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But Carla Esparza looked pretty good in her rebound fight, where she looks totally lost against Jacek. So yeah, anything else to say about that, Jay, or should we move on?
Well, how is she going to win, Esparza?
Oh, I'm sorry. She's gonna win by decision.
Okay, I'm going to go the same for Marcos decision.
And then here's an interesting fight. Johnny Hendricks is making his middleweight debut versus Hector Lombard. Both these guys have had trouble with their weight. Hendricks as of late. This is Hendricks' last hurrah, man. I mean, he already had the losses. And some losses, like the loss against Lawler, I think he won that fight. But too many losses in a row, too many weight class problems or weight cut problems. Now he's fighting Hector Lombard. If Hendricks can get the takedowns, he can get on top of him. I think he wins that fight. That's how I'm going. I'm going with unanimous or with a decision for Hendricks.
Man, we're splitting all the way here. I'm going with Hector Lombard, the boner pill taker himself.
Yeah.
He got busted a couple of times, didn't he? Yeah. I don't know if they were boner pills, but could have been. Who knows? That's the excuse everybody else gives.
Yeah, it's he's been popped for steroids for sure. And has been known to have roid rage in the gym as well. So
yeah, so inside and outside of the cage. Yep. So
do you think it's a knockout, or what do you think?
I think it might be a knockout. Hendricks I'm surprised you picked Hendricks. I really am, Mike, just because of how bad he's been looking.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think this is really his last chance, and
you think because of a hard weight cuts, you think that's his detriment?
Yeah, that's part of it. Now it's 185. He doesn't have to worry about it as much. I think he'll feel invigorated. You got to remember too that Hector Lombard's a small 185er. I mean,
he is short, huh?
He was supposed to. He was at welterweight for a bit. So and he's got like the what did you call him that Benavidez has the Tyrannosaurus Rex arms.
Short arms, those short arms.
Yeah. So I think that Hendricks is just gonna he's just gonna be better all around.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm going Hector Lombard. I think Lombard could probably knock him down and TKO him in the. I'm going second round.
So the next and final fight is going to be Sarah McMahon versus Gina Mazzani. And basically this was supposed to be Liz Camouche versus Sarah McMahon, but she got hurt. Both these ladies were winning 2 in a row. And have been doing well since they had lost against Ronda Rousey both times. But Camouche did get hurt, so now basically we have Mazzani stepping in. She's 4-0. She's finished 3 of her fights, 2 by KO, TKO, 1 by submission. So she knows what she's doing, but it's all been regional fights. Jay, I'm going to go with Sarah McMahon here simply because it's a short notice fight for Mazzani, and McMahon's been looking good again and playing to her strengths with top game, wrestling, and just bullying girls around.
Yeah, I have no idea about Mazzani. I've never heard of her before, so I'd have to look into it. But for now, I'd have to go the same way you're going. I'm going with McMahon because, well, she's got experience in the UFC, so going with her.
Yeah, and if
Decision.
Sarah McMahon does get this win, it gives her 3 in a row. And let's look real quick at the Nunez is the champ, just beat Pena, Shevchenko, right? That's the next.
Yep.
That's the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And then who comes after that? I don't know. So it could be Sarah McMahon with 3 wins in a row, and being a wrestler, being able to possibly take Nunez down or Shevchenko. I don't think I would pick her against either of those 2 young ladies. I think McMahon probably loses to both. But
I agree.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we do it every 2 weeks here. So the week after, there is no fights, just Bellator on the 18th and on the 19th, UFC Fight Night 105. So the week after that, there is no fight week. But I'm going to try and do something on the WEC, make basically a WEC Hall of Fame. Since there's a UFC Hall of Fame, Jay and I are very big fans of the WEC. I'm going to place on Facebook my top 5 people to enter the WEC Hall of Fame. All you old school guys out there, diehard MMA fans, names you'll know, maybe some names you don't know, maybe some names you forgot. But that's what I'm going to work up on the Facebook, as well as trying to get back on top of things with all the official fights and stuff like that, like I normally do.
Yeah, I know my number 1 from the WEC. That's Leonard Garcia.
Yeah, you got it before I could.
No, not in the slightest. Now, Leonard was he was entertaining for sure. I'll give him that.
He was the Clay Guida that never won.
Yeah,
but did.
But he won a lot.
Yeah, but did
with air punches, if that makes any sense. But if you guys know Leonard Garcia, you would know what I mean. The guy whiffed a lot. Let's just say that.
Actually, a really nice guy, but should not have won half the fights he's won.
Yeah. Anyway, that will do it for this week's show, Mike. Anything else going on the Facebook besides that WEC Hall of Fame?
Yeah, like I said, I got the new job starting on Monday, so I'm going to take a couple of days this week to just nail all that down, and then I'll start writing again. So probably midweek I'll jump on that. And of course, anything that we had on the Facebook before we talk about during the next podcast. So that's pretty much all I have.
Yeah. And I think here's the good thing about it, Mike. I think besides the phone number, 925-237-1296, and the email, mmathinktank@gmail.com, these guys can go to the Facebook and talk to us there, and we can talk about it on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
They can bring up their ideas or what they think about the new regime, so to speak, in the UFC. They could talk about whatever they feel like with mixed martial arts and let us know how they feel with how it's going and everything. So talk to us there, guys. If you're too shy to talk to us over the phone or through email for some reason, I don't know why, but who knows? Anyway.
And we did get another person that dropped us a review on iTunes, so guys, please, and gals, please give us an iTunes review if you're on iTunes. That certainly helps us move up. Jay's told me a time or two, and it's true. There's some people that are above us that haven't done a podcast in years.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
We've been doing one about every 2 weeks now for closer to 2 years than 1 year. I don't know if it's been a year and more than how long that is. But
about a year and a half. Yeah. There's been podcasts out there they're dead, completely dead. And they've had, a few more reviews. So, of course, they're above us. And it's like, wait, the last podcast they did was in 2012. There's no way people are listening to that. That's the show we have for you this week. So we'll get back to you in another couple of weeks, guys.
Have a good one.